Hello, good afternoon. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, family. So today we continue with our discussion on the I-864 Affidavit of Support. In the past, the last two videos we've talked about what the I-864 is, when you're applying for a green card, who needs to attach the Affidavit of Support, and a few other important factors about the I-864. So guys, let's get started. So I'm not sharing any screen today, but please stick with me. I'll be reviewing, and then discussing and explaining the points that I have, put down here so that I don't forget anything. So usually if you are a petitioner of a green card application, it means that you have legal status here in the US as perhaps a US citizen or a green card holder, and you're filing for somebody, a beneficiary who's a foreigner or a foreign alien. Welcome everybody, welcome guys. Drop me comments, please. Let me know you're watching me. And so if you are a petitioner, you usually would say that, hey, I'm a US citizen, I want to file for my wife, for example, and I want to sponsor her. You have to sponsor her as a petitioner. And normally the petitioner who is a sponsor must demonstrate that his income is, meets or is at least 125% of the poverty guideline. Okay. I put a link to the poverty guideline, the new guideline that was effective 1st April 2021. There's a new guideline. So you must show that depending on your household size, you meet the income guidelines. Because of course, if you are hungry, how do you sponsor somebody else to become a green card holder? In my language, they would say that it just literally means that if when a naked man or a man without clothes tells you that he's going to clothe you or give you clothes to wear, like, just look at him quietly. Like, how can somebody without clothes give you clothes to wear? Okay, so that's the whole point of this. You who's saying that, hey, I'm petitioning for somebody else, must be able to fend for yourself and your family and your household size before extending, a hand to somebody. Okay, so normally if the sponsor, you as a sponsor, your income is insufficient to meet the minimum income requirement, there are a couple of things that you can do. Okay, the first one is that you may include a household wage earner. That's what is known as a household wage earner. And this household wage earner is going to sign the form I-864A. So that's the first type of, so I put in my caption that types of the affidavits of support. We have the I-864, I-864A, I-864EZ, I-864W. So if you're going to include a household wage earner, the household wage earner is going to sign the I-864A. Okay. And then the second type is a joint or a substitute sponsor. And then if you're including a joint or substitute sponsor, they are going to be signing the I-864, a different or a separate I-864. Okay, so let's start with a household wage earner who's going to be signing the I-864A. The income of the household wage earner usually is determined by looking at the person's tax returns. So the household wage earner, the income of a household wage earner, including the sponsor's spouse and other persons claimed as dependents in the most recent tax year, whether or not they reside in the sponsor's household, and other relatives who have the same principal residence as the sponsor may be included if they are at least 18 years old. Okay, so pretty much the household wage earner is just somebody that, sometimes lives in the same house as the sponsor. And then we're adding this person who lives in the same house as a sponsor, his income to the sponsor's income. That's why it's known as the household wage earner. And The household income may include the income of the of the intended immigrant if he or she is the sponsor's spouse or has the same principal residence as the sponsor, and the income is a result of course, lawful employment. So pretty much this is just explaining it. If you're, I don't want to go there, but what all this is saying is that if the sponsor's income doesn't meet the guideline requirements, the poverty guideline requirements, which should be 125% and above, then he may seek the inclusion or the contribution of a household wage earner. And the household wage earner is usually somebody who resides in the household of the sponsor, or may be included as just lives in the household of the sponsor. Okay, there are lots of exceptions to this. There are lots of variables. I don't want to go into all of that. Let's just keep it very simple in general, because there are usually exceptions to the exceptions and exceptions, and we'll just be wading into too many deep waters. Okay, and then secondly, we'll talk about the joint sponsor. Well, so with the I-86 for the household wage earner, in order to have their income counted, household members are required, as I've already stated, to file the I-86 for A, and that's of course a written. So take note of this. Normally, the I-86 for is a written contract between the sponsor and the government. The I-86 for A, however, is a written contract between the sponsor and the household wage earner, the other sponsor. Okay, and what they're saying is that they are promising or providing that they will be jointly and severally liable for the reimbursement obligation that the sponsor will incur. Okay, so joint and severally liable is of course a whole new legal technical term. Okay, so that's it. That means that if the sponsor cannot be on the hook or is unable to fulfill the obligations to the government, where the beneficiary goes to take a means-tested public benefit, then the other party, the household wage earner, can be on the hook, either jointly with the sponsor or severally. That means independently from the sponsor, depending on some situations. Okay. Now let's talk about the joint sponsor. So if the sponsor can't meet the income requirements, the sponsor can seek a joint sponsor. Here, the joint sponsor doesn't necessarily need to be in the same house as the sponsor, but he has to be at least 18 years old, be a U.S. citizen, or a green card holder. This is different from the household wage earner, who does not need to be a U.S. citizen or a green card holder. That's one of the distinctions. So the joint sponsor usually would just need to file a separate I-86 for and not the I-86 for A. And what this is that the joint sponsor cannot pool his income together with the sponsor. The joint sponsor must meet the income guideline separately and independently from the sponsor himself. Okay, so he must meet the income guideline by himself. And so yesterday we took a look at it. If you have a household of about 3 and say the income guideline is $33,000 and above, the joint sponsor must be making say $40,000 for that household size. However, you cannot say that the joint sponsor makes, let's say, $20,000 and then the sponsor himself makes $15,000. So we're pulling it together to make $35,000 for a household size of, let's say, 3, if it's supposed to be about $33,000. Doesn't work that way. Joint sponsor must meet the obligation fully and squarely, not depending upon the sponsor. Okay. So the joint sponsor's household income is also calculated separately. It must equal the 125% of the poverty guideline for the joint sponsor's household, unless, of course, he's on active duty, as we discussed yesterday. Active duty means that somebody who works with the military, with that one, their household income the poverty guideline for them is just 100% above, what is required, not 125% above the poverty guideline level. Okay, so that's what you should note. The sponsor and the joint sponsor, as I said, cannot put their income, and the intending immigrant, note this, you cannot have more than one joint sponsor. So you cannot go and pick one, you cannot have a sponsor and then have a joint sponsor and another joint sponsor, one sponsor plus two joint sponsors. You can only have a sponsor and one joint sponsor, no more than one joint sponsors. Okay. So pretty much it says that this is something you have to note. It's not necessary for all derivatives, derivative beneficiaries to have the same joint sponsor. So if, so for example, if you are filing under the F2A, which is the spouse and the minor children of a green card holder, and let's say you are including children of the woman as derivatives, it's not necessary that the derivatives, let's say there are maybe three derivatives, three children who are, when we say derivatives, these are people who are hinging on or piggybacking on the beneficiary's application. So there's let's say a green card holder, he's going for his wife, or sometimes let's say even a K1 fiancé visa. With a K1, you can file, a U.S. citizen here can file or petition for his foreign girlfriend. Sometimes these people would have children. They would be known as derivatives because the girlfriend or boyfriend can't leave his, let's say, 6-year-old back in Ghana if he's in Ghana. The U.S. citizen will then file for his fiancé, and then the fiancé's child, the child will be the derivative, okay, of the beneficiary. So it's not necessary for all derivative beneficiaries to have the same joint sponsor. That's it. And a family may be divided so that there are joint sponsors for different family members. That's pretty self-explanatory. Also, as I stated, there may be no more than 2 joint sponsors for any family group. Okay, so it just follows the first principle I talked about, that a family, you can divide a family so that the joint sponsors for different family members. But then just make sure that when you are calculating for a family group joint sponsorship, you cannot have more than 2 joint sponsors. So pretty much that's it. It's a little bit technical. The I-864 is, it's quite technical. There's a lot of calculations and review that goes into it to make sure that you qualify. And it's interesting, this came up because I've been dealing with a lot of issues surrounding the I-864, and some people actually get NTAs, notice to appear. That means they have deportation proceedings have been committed against them simply because they didn't file the proper I-864 or didn't file it accurately. All right, guys, so today is Friday. We're not going to spend too much time here, so I'm already off. Let me read a couple of comments and then let's go our way. Emmanuel Ifa says, hello, please, I want to contact you. Of course, Emmanuel, you're welcome to contact me. That's my number right there on the screen, 8027800564. Please call my office and then my assistant will schedule a consultation with you. That will be my special one-on-one time with you. I'll review everything going on and then I can give you specific legal advice. All right, guys, let me leave you. We will talk again soon. Be blessed, stay safe, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye.